I think, Jess, we spend so much time thinking about what's happening in society right now with loneliness and anxiety and really people looking in on themselves and what's wrong and helping others, getting outside of ourselves, staying in the present moment. That can actually, we've got research that shows that actually pulls us outside of those neuroses, outside of depression, outside of anxiety.
Welcome to the Midweek Motivation Podcast, where we bring practical help for your faith and life. Here's today's episode.
Hi, guys. My name is Jess, and I'm one of the pastors here at Westside. And this is Nancy, and she is a psychologist and a coach and a friend of mine. And she's joined us to get started on today's podcast. So
nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I can't actually see you, but nice to have you back. I've been with you for a while now.
Yep.
So it's fun to be here with you, Jess.
So fun. I'm so excited for this conversation. We always have the best talks. So we are in the middle of this conversation on serving. And on Sunday, Pastor Stephen gave a really amazing talk that maybe came from a little bit of a different perspective of how we see service. And I know that commonly we think about service as something that we are doing for the benefit of other people. And he came at it from the perspective of what serving does for us. Good, like service, like with the full intention of helping other people's, not helping other people, not necessarily for the benefit of us, but we are benefited by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and really thinking about it and thinking about what Steve said and then going a step beyond that or in addition to it, I started thinking about what we know about psychology of serving. The psychology really, I would say it's almost like a psychology of altruism, because if we think about if we're serving others, we are definitely coming at something with a more selfless approach. Which is a more altruistic approach, where we're really acting out of a concern for the well-being of others, not out of obligation, but just, I see a need and I'm here to help. The beauty of that, and what I would love to just have us kind of think through a little bit is how we can actually use that with what we know about those things that Steve said about how it actually helps us mentally, physically, emotionally. But how we can create, not just for ourselves, but for our families, for others, an authentic, durable happiness. Versus a more fluctuating happiness, which is, and when I say happiness, really, I'm not as big a fan of the word happiness as I am contentment. Yeah. But in this kind of situation, the research actually uses the word happiness a lot, so I'm just going to stick with that for right now. But I really go for something a little deeper, which is a real, true contentment. Yeah. But an authentic and durable, long-lasting happiness. Versus something which is more fluctuating, which in our society, our society right now is so self-focused. Yeah. And kind of what you do you, I do me, whatever feels good is right. And what we know is when you are spending that much time self-focused, it can kind of mirror what we'd call like a mental rumination. Rumination is a nice way of saying obsessing. And a mental rumination can bring about more fluctuating happiness and not the authentic, durable happiness that we really want to try to go for. And so, what do we mean by all that? Well, like Steve said, we do have changes in the brain that we have things that are released. We have neurochemicals in our brain. Okay. Our brains are electricity and chemistry. Okay. Messages are sent within neurons by electricity and between neurons by chemistry, neurobrain chemistry. Sure. Yep. And those neurotransmitting messages, so neurotransmitters of dopamine and serotonin, he talked about those are increased. And they are kind of our happiness and well-being chemicals.
Sure.
Which is great.
Yep.
But I would want to go even further to say that like not only that, but we can actually over time, if we are stepping outside of ourselves, and helping somebody else. And that doesn't mean you have to be doing these grand gestures. It could be a grand gesture, but it can be giving, it can be opening up the door for somebody who looks like they're struggling. Sure. It can be sharing your lunch with somebody at work who forgot theirs. It can be, sharing money with somebody who's in need, sharing your time, giving your time. Not sharing, but giving your time or your money for people that are in need. I have found, and this is just me, but I mean, you know this because obviously I talk to you all the time, that I have found a lot of joy in the work that I do, where I'm giving my time for people in need that are within our church community. But I've also, I also find that makes me want to do it more for the community at large. If you think about, yes, we increase the dopamine and the serotonin. Okay. We also are actually, we're actually creating this wonderful loop in the brain. It's like a reinforcing loop in the reward centers of our brain, where when we do a compassionate act, we're actually activating those reward centers, which has us feeling super positive. Because why? Because if we are lonely, if we're anxious, if we're stressed, if we, but we then go and give something of ourselves to someone else, and we see their eyes back. We see the thanks. We hear the thanks. We just know what we've done for somebody else. That is really reinforcing for us. And it puts us in the present moment. We're not thinking about what hasn't happened or what I didn't do right, or what do you think they think about me? Oh, because what do we do? Like from a very young age, about middle school, we start thinking about what do these people think about me?
Yeah,
like,
right.
And that's where we live. Oh gosh. Oh, I think I sounded really stupid. I think and we then are very much in our heads.
Yep.
And the irony of all ironies, just to say about middle school and high school, is that's what everybody else is doing too.
Exactly.
So they don't really realize that people aren't spending a lot of energy doing that and thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves just like you are. But when we can for instance, take kids out of that frame of mind, whether it is by them seeing us serving others, or helping grandma, or having a job to do that helps the family, bringing them to Food Brigade, to some place where you're helping people who are in need of food or other needs, we actually change the structure, and we can change how they view the world, so that you take them outside of a more self-focused frame of mind, and we start helping them to learn, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of how to create more of a social responsibility, which can shift perspective for years and years to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving out of like a negative cycle into a positive frame of mind cycle. And we have the ability to influence our kids in that way just by teaching them and putting them into position where they can learn those things on their own and experience them themselves. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Well, and I watched people here at church.
Yeah.
Who were greeting and who were just doing little things.
Yeah.
And big things.
Yeah.
And I started doing things like that. So and now I greet 10 o'clock service every week.
Yeah.
And because it feels good to be that smile or that welcome to people. And it becomes infectious. There's something about that just becomes infectious. And it really does. Self-transcendence or like that ability to come outside of ourselves. And so we transcend the self, okay? When we do that, we actually know by research, there's quite a bit of research that shows that self-transcendence is actually in opposition, or it's negatively correlated with depression, anxiety, obsessive thoughts and obsessive behaviors, and other neuroses like that. So it is something which is protective of our brains and our emotional system and our bodies and our families and our relationships, and it becomes just this cycle. Again, you get it activates those reward centers. It actually opens up a reciprocal or a give and take in a social relationship with somebody else that is so rich that as long as we're looking out, if we're only looking in, we're never going to know that. We're never going to feel that.
Right.
But if we're looking out, it creates that reciprocity that then can foster more and more positivity in how we see things. And again, so we go for that authentic, durable happiness.
Yeah.
Hey, just jumping in right in the middle of this podcast episode to tell you about a resource that you need in your life. You know, if you feel ever stuck in your faith, or if you feel like, I want to grow my faith, but I just don't quite know what the steps are, we got a resource for you called Sticky Faith in a Slippery World. I mean, this world is changing and it's crazy, and we all need something firm to stand on. And I wrote a book for you called Sticky Faith in a Slippery World. You can get your copy right now at the link in the description.
That makes me think a little bit about a couple of things. Correct or redirect me if this isn't where you're going with that. But I went to the Redwood Forest last year.
I haven't been there.
And oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's so beautiful. But I was with a friend who was a little bit like nerdy. She nerds out a little bit about the way that things work. And the Redwood Forest has, the redwoods are these ginormous trees.
Yeah.
And they have this interesting way that they work together, in that their roots support each other and they link in together.
Oh, that's cool.
And that is how they've become so big, because over the course of hundreds of thousands of years or whatever, they have supported each other through storms, through all kinds of different, natural disasters or whatever to last as long as they have.
Right.
And they do that because they support each other. And I think that it's incredible how God created us to depend on each other. And I feel like as you say this, that's what it makes me think of, the fact that my lasting and durable happiness, or whatever you would call it,
is intertwined with mine.
Yeah. So even my opening up a door for you and your appreciation of that causes happiness for both. And then things
and well-being.
Yeah.
Just well-being. I mean, because, we who knows what anybody is walking through life with.
Exactly.
And so if we can just be present and remember that we are intertwined. I mean, we're social animals.
Yep.
So we are not meant to live in isolation.
Right.
And we're not meant to function in isolation. We're meant to function, like you said, where we have that interconnectivity. And so if we can just be in the present, stay outside of our whatever's kind of going on in life, and see others. The other thing we can easily then do is, what we end up finding out is that we have a lot more in common with everybody around us. So many times in our society, again, we are so about, getting ahead and making money and whatever. And that usually has kind of almost a competitive element to it that isn't about it isn't as much about, it's about me winning.
Right.
And it's not about we winning.
Right.
And so if we can I love that Redwoods idea. If we can kind of think of, if we interlocked all our roots, we would win. We could create better neighborhoods. We could create better church environments. I mean, better, because what does a church do? A church, when they get money in, they help other people who are far less able to say, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
I know we search for those people that need assistants that aren't feeling like they are good enough, able, whatever, to come and say, can you help me? Or can I get ahead? When so often there's just a boost that needs to happen in their self-esteem or in their self-concept or hey, let's get you an outfit so you can go on that interview, or just, to see how you can stay connected and move all of us into getting ahead.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love it so much. Again, it's just like, it's so interesting how we can see just through scripture, which we talked about on Sunday, that Pastor Stephen talked about on Sunday, and we can see how that corresponds and correlates in the natural world of today. We can see how those things benefit us. So
absolutely,
it's so cool to see and to watch. Yeah.
Well, and truly, because we are living in a time that is so focused on the epidemic of anxiety, loneliness, depression, especially in our young people.
Yeah.
The more we stay focused on the depression and the anxiety and the oh my gosh of it, we actually, in a way, reinforce it. And versus stepping outside, pulling them along to say, hey, let's go and do something, like I said, whether it's in your family or it's in the community, that can pull them outside of themselves enough to even just have a break from that mental rumination, to see that, hey, I just helped I served somebody. I helped somebody that doesn't have every advantage that I have or any advantage. Or maybe it's my pal who does have the same advantages, the same family life, but it's my pal who was really down today.
Yeah.
And if I can step outside of myself versus going, oh my gosh, I know exactly how you feel. I feel terrible too.
And encourage them in that direction.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah. But we can go like, hey, then we can actually make massive steps towards a healthier perspective, a healthier outlook for 1, 10, 100, a school, a community.
And a legacy, really, if you're talking about, the environment that you create, making and letting that influence and impact even the next generation.
Yeah.
Like pendulum swing, right? And mental health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and there's people that I definitely know that feel like I don't have any special gift to give. And I'm talking to you guys.
Yeah.
That I don't know what I could be offering to anybody. And especially if you're feeling down or you're feeling compromised in any way, then even more so, you go like, oh my gosh, I can't go there because why would they want to talk to me? Or why, then choose something.
Yeah.
Choose something that just puts you in contact with a doing versus a mental rumination, a mental thinking. Just get you outside of your head where you're actively doing something.
Yeah.
So that you then almost by chance, not by chance because you're out doing it, but a secondary benefit is all of a sudden you start making connections with other people that are also there helping. And I work with people who will say like, I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
And because I'm not confident, I'm not comfortable. I don't do that well.
Yeah.
But when you start, if you go to Habitat for Humanity and you start building a house, because guess what? You can hammer in nails.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a time when they're gonna stop for lunch.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be talking with people. And you find that some people have some connections with you where when you're at home in your room, you feel like nobody understands me.
Sure.
Nobody really gets the pain that I'm feeling or that kind of thing. So there's so much, not only the good that we can do for a community, but the good that we can do for ourselves in serving others.
By stepping out. I love that idea because it meant like depression, those types of things. I've struggled with them personally myself. And I love the idea. I'm always looking for like a way to identify something that will trigger a new action in myself. And I love the idea that if you are feeling like you're in that space where you're just mulling over the same thing for or where you're having intrusive thoughts or negativity or whatever.
Right.
Let that be the trigger that says,
oh, that's great.
Oh, I need to change
This is my chance
something
to step out.
So I'm going to go out to lunch and hold the door open for somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just as simple as that can completely like flip that over.
Yeah.
That narrative.
Well, and people can, and again, I'm talking to you, people can, go to your neighborhood church.
Yeah.
Ask them what their needs are, or just go online.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do anything more than go online. You can sit in your own house. But the other thing is you can go online to handsonportland.org. I'm pretty sure it's .org. Handsonportland.
Yeah.
.com or .org. I'm pretty sure it's .org. And what they have, which is so cool, is they will post one-offs. So like a lot of people will go like, oh, I love animals, but I don't know if I can make a commitment to the Humane Society for this many days because my work schedule fluctuates or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if they go like, I'd love to do something with my kids, but with their sports schedule or whatever, that I don't know that I can commit to an ongoing. Hands on Portland has things that are a one-off, going and donating your time or energy to this cause, not a cause. It would be things like going and serving food at a mission, and I know you can obviously go to a mission anyways, but there will be things like there will be like some sort of I don't even know, like a community event, and they need volunteers to help put it on.
Yeah.
But it's a community event that serves the public, that serves people that are less fortunate than we are. And so it's just a cool way to go in and step in. It's a cool way to bring your kids and start showing them the value in coming outside of themselves. I mean, in high schools nowadays, community service is a huge part of what's expected of them. Yes. And I see kids ticking off their hours because it's a requirement. And what I would say is see if you can find a way, parents, to do it with them. Yeah. To go and take them out so that they see a true they get true feedback. They see a true benefit versus just feeling like, okay, tick that requirement off, tick that requirement off. I think a lot of kids, once they start doing it, they do see it, but it's just it's like an opportunity lost if you're a mom or a dad to go grab your kiddo and have them see you also doing something that's altruistic. Yeah. That isn't through obligation. Now, the one thing I would say though, Jess, is people who, so this idea, we can almost put it on a continuum of like more of a self-centered on one end and a selflessness on the other end. And those are the extremes. Okay. So if we think of it now just as extreme, okay, not just good selflessness while I'm still taking care of myself. Sure. There are times when people will take care of others at the expense of taking care of themselves. Sure. And that's like the definition of codependency, okay? Which is a selflessness, but it's a selflessness where I'm not really taking care of my own needs. I'm not taking, whether it's my physical needs, my emotional needs, my financial needs, my social needs, excuse me. But they're doing it and they kind of get in a loop of being known for that or it's a way to hide.
Yeah. Can be a little self-destructive.
Yes. Yeah. Because they're not taking care of, what we want to get is to a place where we're kind of interdependent, where we're taking care of ourselves and we're taking care of others at the same time, whether that's in a relationship or it's in a community or it's in, a larger body. So just make sure that, people need to make sure that they're also taking care of themselves while they're taking care of others. Yeah.
And I think that that's a valid point. And I know that there are a lot of reasons why people lean into those things, whether it be codependency or extreme independence.
Yeah. Yes.
But
like the taking care of myself at the expense of everyone else. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that can come it's funny because I will often say, and I apologize, I'll come back. No, you're good. I will often say, if you have lived in more of a codependent kind of place, and sometimes if you're an adult, sometimes you have because you grew up where that was kind of brewed in you, and where you're taking care of, whether you grew up in an alcoholic family or, whatever, if that's been kind of brewed into your existence, then, but you want to get to like that center interdependent kind of place, how do you know where center is if you don't go to the other end?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Because how can you know this is where interdependence is if I haven't actually, I don't know where the spectrum ends. So, and I'm not saying you want to live there because you definitely don't. You don't want to live on either end of the spectrum where I'm taking care of others at the expense of myself or taking care of myself at the expense of others. So, but if you have never experienced, sometimes you shift over to a place of needing to take care of me and hey, y'all are going to just need to wait for a little while, but you don't want to live there.
Right.
You don't want to go, oh, I kind of like this. And then because what happens then is you just start neglecting other parts of your being and the world around you.
Yeah.
And we have that collective. If we've got roots, that's like one tree going, hey, I'm out. I got other people. I'm doing something else. And the other trees go, if you pull out, I had 3 trees in an old house of mine, 3 huge trees. And the middle one during a windstorm went over, and the other 2 had to go too because their roots were interconnected.
Wow.
And so they had to all be taken because the other 2 would die.
Yeah.
So so we don't want to do that either.
Wow,
we want to.
That's interesting.
I just love that idea of keeping that visual of our roots are connected.
Wow, that's so incredible. I think that if we look in Scripture too, we'll see that that's the way that God intended it to be. Like, the greatest commandment of all, right, is to love God first and then love others as you would love yourself. And that is that picture of caring for and loving other people just as you would have yourself cared for and loved. So that's that same idea. So,
well, and as I've said on other podcasts with Gabe, I try every day to live more Christ-like. Yeah. And really, if you're somebody who's new to Christ, or if you're somebody who's just entertaining the thought of faith, to me, what does it mean to live more Christ-like every day? It's to be loving. It's to live with a forgiveness in your heart and just a bounding love for others and for the communities we live in and everything. And so if you can do that with kindness and generosity of spirit, generosity of time, generosity of money, then how is life not going to be just golden?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love durable, that idea of durable happiness instead of fluctuating happiness. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that there are some amazing opportunities to get this off the ground for you if you're interested in the Portland area. We've got our churches doing Good Neighbor Project, and we partner with other churches and other organizations. And so if you haven't had a chance to check out the Good Neighbor Project to get involved in some of these things, definitely check it out. And it will be linked here so that you can do that. Nancy, thank you so much for your time and
Great to see you, Jess.
Sharing all of your wisdom. I love it so much.
And yours. Take care.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Midweek Motivation. To make sure you don't miss any content in the future, please subscribe, share, and if you enjoyed this, give us a like, and consider popping by a Westside service some weekend. You can find out more at westsidecommunitychurch.com.